Inside the Game, the show that talks about everything cool in video games. I'm one of your hosts, Drew Beausoleil. Coming up on today's show, we visit a beautiful painted world of Assassin's Creed China. From there, we freeze our butts off in the long dark. After that, I talked to Richard Fogey about State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition on the Xbox One. And then Chris and I get into a bit of a heated discussion about the Order 1886. But first, here's Chris with the Inside Scoop.
I'm Chris Forge, and tonight on the Inside Scoop, we're going to talk about Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, the newest part of the Rainbow Six series from almost 10 years now. It's going to be out October 13th. Techland's Dying Light, the sleeper hit, is just announced its DLC, coming out May 26th this year. New features include a brand new game mode, Ultimate Co-op Challenge, entirely new location, new guns, and it'll all be available May 26th for $10.
Alright, LEGO fans, now we have some more news for the LEGO Jurassic World that is coming out June 12th. Not only will you be playing 4 parts of the movies, 4 of your favorite moments, but you'll also be playing as dinosaurs. 20 plus dinosaurs with more on the way. And what console are they going to be on? You pick it, because it'll be on there. So Ubisoft has announced what we all indicated was Assassin's Creed Victory has now been revealed as Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Coming this October 23rd, we get to play as Jacob and Evie Fry, twins, for the first time ever within the series.
Building this glorious empire, the working class sleepwalks through life unaware of the machine that drives them.
Tonight for a discussion, me and Drew are going to talk about cutoff times for old consoles. When should developers cut off new games for old consoles? What do you think?
Well, when do you draw the line? Because there are so many gamers that have old systems like the PS3, which really isn't that old. New consoles have only been out for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So how many gamers have PS3s? How many gamers have Xbox 360s? If you cut them off now, that's a huge market you're losing.
Or are you pushing them to buy the next console, the next generation, so they can get the newer games in the series that they've been following?
Well, true enough, that's a good idea too, right? If you push them forward and they can only get that one particular game on the next gen console, maybe that's what they need to move ahead. You look at Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Ubisoft has just declared that for Assassin's Creed Syndicate, they're not putting it on old gen systems. They're moving forward. Xbox One and PlayStation 4 only, as well as the PC. But again, you're not going to be able to get it on PS3 or the Xbox 360, and they did that too with Unity. But they gave the gamers Assassin's Creed Rogue for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, which turned out to be the better game.
Oh, there you are. And on the flip side, you have LEGO Jurassic World coming out on pretty much every console out there.
It is everywhere.
Yeah.
Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4, PS3, Wii U, Nintendo 3DS. It's like, did you miss anything?
Yeah.
Where's my tablet one? I want a tablet version too. Like, come on, man. What about my little phone? I want my...
Now, there's a lot of big difference in quality, obviously. LEGO Jurassic World is going to be a lot
chunkier, more blocky, smoother
yeah.
graphics, perhaps, versus you get into Syndicate. Assassin's Creed
it's intense. You know, they have all those cutaway scenes and stuff like that, where it's just beautiful landscape and stuff like that. You can't play that truly on a PS3 or an Xbox 360. They're going to have to dumb it down. Yeah. And I think that's going to take away part of the artistic merit of it.
Absolutely. They're going to lose their vision because now they're trying to cater to the old gen.
Yeah.
Technology outdates itself. There's nothing we can do about that. Technology moves so fast these days, right? So when they're jumping ahead, when you see the power that the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 holds, why not push it to its limits?
That's right.
My home was beautiful, but a shadow fell across the land. I was forced to run, but now I've returned, for one reason: vengeance.
All right, so now we're talking about Assassin's Creed Chronicles China, a 3-part series from the Assassin's Creed that have come out from Climax Studios, published by Ubisoft. What do you think this new twist from what we're used to Assassin's Creed now that they've gone to a 2D plane?
You know what? It was beautiful to look at. They had the Chinese kind of painting to it, and it, you know, it had that aspect of the ink and very subtle colors and stuff like that.
Almost
and
like a watercolor painting.
Yeah, it had a lot of that, and it was beautiful.
Sure.
And even it had multiple layers in it to give you, even though it's a 2D side scroller, for the most part, it was, you know, there was some 3D dimension to it. It still gave you that feel that it was a bigger game than what it was.
True.
Besides that, I found that, well, the controls were really good.
They're solid.
It was, yeah, they were great controls. And the character needs a little more development. The storyline as well. Like, what storyline, right?
Well, yeah, that's the biggest issue, right?
Like they introduced a bit of it in the beginning, and then it was just a hack and slash game.
Well, see, I thought they did a different twist on it, though. What I took... Now, we play as Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin is, if anybody's followed the Assassin's Creed series, was introduced back in the short film from Embers that they produced. So, if anybody wants to go back, check that out. That was pretty cool. Check that out, and then get into this. The way they developed this one, like you said, there isn't much of a story. You get a basic introduction, and then go take out this person, and then while you're there, here's a side objective, and you might as well grab the Animus fragment that's sitting there too.
Yeah, and it was great to do that. You know,
sure, it's fun.
It's a game that you sit down, you can play for 5-10 minutes, and then you walk away from it, because that's as much of an attention span that it gave me. Like I couldn't play it for hours on end just because it wasn't that entertaining.
See, I give it an hour and a half at a time. I enjoyed it, sitting back, relaxing. There are elements of stealth, which is something the Assassin's Creed series has really, really lacked in the last few games.
Yeah, it has
That's
been
what
missing.
they built the premise of Assassin's Creed on. And then you get up to where they are now with Unity. I found there was a bit of that stealth element coming back, but nothing like this one here, China, I thought was cool because you can go in, you can duck in behind walls and stuff, but as you progress further throughout the game, the little guards are walking around with lanterns, and then your shadows are no longer shadows.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a good point as well. And I love the gameplay.
Yeah, me too.
I love the graphics of it. It looked amazing for a 2D side scroller.
Cool.
It was great, but I found it lacked heart. There's no soul in this game. I
can't disagree.
It's by a smaller developer, which feels like Ubisoft said, you have a shot, let's see what you can do, and they just punched everything they can into this game without thinking about where it was going.
It has no real development from beginning to end, I found, right? It's just here's the introduction, and then just make your way through the level.
Yeah.
And then when you make that level done, you go on to the next one. It's the same thing again. Here's your basic objective. Now go take out that guy. There wasn't too much to it. Now the element though that you have more depth perception was very cool, and I like the gameplay itself. But as you said, it needs more soul, more heart to it. There's just not enough to grab you. But the game is only $10.
Yeah, that's true. You know, we were talking about this earlier about money versus quality of play.
Sure.
And it's definitely worth $10 to pick up and to play.
Yeah, I would.
But it's just, it feels like once you play it, you're not going to play it again.
Well, what do you think of China? What are you going to give Assassin's Creed Chronicles?
You know, I'm
China
not giving it any more than 5.
See, I'm a little bit higher. I do enjoy what I've played. I've liked the aspect, and I like where they're going with it. I'm giving it a 6.5.
We've had enough of being on our own. We'd love to join you if you'll have us.
All right, so joining me today is Richard Fogey from Undead Labs talking about State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, Now, the State of Decay was on the Xbox 360. You've recently about to launch it onto the Xbox One. Why don't you explain to those who haven't had a chance to play on the Xbox 360, or just what is State of Decay?
State of Decay is a zombie survival fantasy game set in an open world where players control a community of survivors just after the outbreak of the zombie apocalypse. So because it's an open world, players are able to choose how they want to go about solving the various missions that are put in front of them by the game, and different opportunities that they have to solve problems that arise over the course of the zombie apocalypse, as you would expect. And it's a very open game in terms of the choices that players are able to make, and also the way that the world is set up. So players can go wherever they want to, and they can choose how they want to go about finishing off the various missions and opportunities that the game presents to them.
Now, you touched on a little bit of what the Xbox One can bring. Why don't you elaborate a little bit more as to what we can expect now that it is going to be on the Xbox One?
Right, so the difference between the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One is pretty profound. The horsepower that you get on the Xbox One is light years ahead of what you had on the 360. So we were able to remaster the game graphically from the ground up. We were able to get much higher resolution textures. Another big deal is our draw distance. And in an open world game, draw distance is a very big deal. We were able to push that out really far. And the zombies, as you imagine, in a game about a zombie apocalypse, there are a lot of zombies, and having a lot of zombies on the screen occasionally would bog down the Xbox 360 if we were in one of our more detailed environments. So the Xbox One gives us a rock solid frame rate, tons of zombies in our most detailed environments.
Now, let's talk about some of the relationships you build, because you talked about building your base and these people, the survivors you're going to be meeting. How does all that work within the game?
So in the context of the base game, you start off as in a specific scenario where you meet a group of survivors that have been surviving for the last 2 weeks while you've kind of been off camping in the woods with the characters that you initially start out with. And so this is kind of the story mode, and over time, the story kind of fades out a little bit, the kind of canned story, and it becomes more the story of the choices that you make as sort of, you don't play an individual character. You can control any one of the survivors that are part of this community over time. So it really becomes more about the story that you've created through your choices as the sort of director of how this community is surviving. So their relationships can affect the way that you go on specific missions. You can develop some characters will reveal specific missions for you to go on and do that are very personal to them over the course of the game as you develop your relationship with them. But it doesn't really affect the outcome as you're following the main through line of the story in the base game. And in Breakdown, the trappings of the story are completely gone, and it is just purely the story that you're creating of your community as you move through and try to survive each round of Breakdown. But in Lifeline specifically, the relationships that you develop with individual characters within that world can have a really they can affect the ending of the game. There are a number of endings in Lifeline, and depending on who you side with and the characters you rescue and the characters whose philosophies you embrace, you'll get entirely different outcomes through the end of the game. So it's a great game. That DLC in particular is great for multiple playthroughs.
Very cool. Now, there is permadeath.
Yeah, absolutely. So when one of your characters dies, they are gone forever.
Was that a tough design choice when thinking about permadeath versus just how everybody just restarts in their games?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And there was a lot of analysis and a lot of kind of doubt as we were going through the process. But when we were playing the game internally and getting feedback from the guys over at Microsoft, when we initially put the systems in, it was a little bit scary. But as the other systems kind of progressed and you got to grow attached to these characters as characters, not just a video game avatar that I'm kind of doing whatever I want to, you really felt a strong sense of attachment and loss, and the experience was so rich and meaningful that it was absolutely the right choice for the game.
That's awesome. Okay, great. Richard, that was fantastic. Please do come back again to the show.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you'll have me.
Anything else you want to touch on before we leave?
I think I got most of it. State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition comes out April 28th, as you pointed out, on PC and Xbox One. I'm looking forward to players getting in there and discovering their own survival experience and having their own stories come into existence. I'm really excited to see new players.
That's great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Now we're in Steam's early access. We're talking about Hinterland Studios' very own game, The Long Dark. Now this takes place in the Alaskan Great Northern winter. It is cold, it is freezing, and you feel it in this game. What do you think?
Oh, I loved how you could feel the cold and how you're desperate to survive in it. You know, you're looking for the next piece of wood so that you can have a fire, so you can thaw some ice to have a drink.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was great, and you could hear the wind in every aspect. I love having the headphones on or with my like 5.1 surround sound,
Yep.
and you can just hear it just blowing right through you, and it chills you right to the bone.
Yeah, it whistles, right? And there's a status too, a little status menu in the corner, and it tells you are freezing, so you better find shelter.
Yeah.
Because you have to keep your health level and all that support up, because you can dehydrate, you can freeze to death. My biggest problem is the wolves.
Yeah, you know, you're desperate for food, so you're going to find something to eat, or you're trying to get some wood so that you can have a fire, and you're out in the dark, and it's windy, and there's snow blowing, and all of a sudden you see these eyes glowing at you, and you're trying to get your rifle or your knife or whatever you can to bear, and there's the wolf right on you, and there's nothing you can do. You fight it off, and then there's another. Or then you freeze to death, or you know, you can't find your way back because it's a blizzard out and you've lost all bearing of where you are.
Yeah, then when that blizzard picks up, holy, like, it is hard to see. Daytime, nighttime, it doesn't matter. You can't see anything.
Yeah, what you really need in that game is a compass, and I haven't found one yet. I don't know if there's one out there, but I've never found a compass, because that would have really helped in that game.
There was one point I had 20% of my health left, and there's this lookout shack up top on this big mountain.
Yeah.
So I get up to the mountain, and you can see my health. It is freezing at this point, right? My character is really starting to struggle. And
it's dropping
It's dropping. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to make this. So I get up into the shack. My eyes now, I'm starting to blur. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? Because if I fall asleep, I'm dead. I'm not getting up the next day, right? So I've got to make it over to the wood stove. And at this point, I'm probably sitting about 8%. I finally get the fire started. I get a little bit of water into me after I've melted the water. I got to boil the water because I can't just drink regular water, right? Because you're dead again. So I finally get the water boiled. I drink my water. I get that up. I'm like, okay, I'm hydrated. Everything's pretty good. I'm still blurry-eyed. Lay down to have a nap. Get back up. I'm still blurry. I'm like, no, I gotta get something to eat now. I get more water. I have another nap. My health is up to 75. I'm like, yes, I'm out of here. Let's go. It was awesome.
Oh, man. And you cheered for your guy, right? The worst thing that you could do is die, because then you have to start over again, and then you have to drag through the snow and trudge through and try to find some tools to use to find some food, and then again, fire. I find fire is the hardest thing in that game.
It's to keep it going, for me, is the hardest aspect of it, because you approach the wood stove, and there's a percentage of
not even lighting it.
Nope. I'm like, well, this was a waste. Time to bail out.
There goes my matches. Damn.
Yeah, it is. I really like it.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too.
You're scavenging constantly. That's the main thing, right? Your plane is crashed in this snowstorm, and you have to survive. That's basically what it is. It's an early build of the game, so it's not the full game, because there is a story mode when the game comes out. That's what I want to see. I want to see this story. I've played 20-30 hours now just on the Steam Early Access build of The Long Dark.
Yeah, in the sandbox where there's no objective. It's just trying to survive. Try to dodge the wolves, keep yourself hydrated, and keep going.
It tells you too how long you've lasted for.
Yeah, and you're cheering your guy on to beat your record.
Yep.
And it's great. I really enjoyed it that way.
I lasted once 32 seconds. I spawned right beside a wolf. I'm like, well, this isn't going to happen at all.
Enjoy your lunch.
That was it. I died. I'm like, well, that sucks. You gonna recommend The Long Dark or not recommend this one?
I'm gonna recommend it, but I still want to see the main story.
Yeah, me too. If you're even contemplating buying this one, picking this one up, I definitely recommend it. But we're really gonna, I think, learn a lot and feel better is when that story's released.
That's right.
A war without end requires a soldier without end.
Grave, we're in position! Move out!
I once believed it.
Take his arms.
But in this age, the convictions of a knight hold little comfort.
So here we are reviewing the game, The Order 1886 from Ready at Dawn Studios. How did you feel that it did?
I loved The Order 1886. I thought Ready at Dawn did a great job implementing a new IP with a story that has a couple twists and shocking moments that I really enjoyed. A beautiful, fleshed out world that was totally realized in my eyes is trip back to a modern, kind of futuristic, Victorian kind of twist. What are you laughing at? This is a great game.
You can't put a game as 1886 and then have it in the future.
Why not?
Sure, the steampunk aspect was great. I love the futuristic kind of electro weapons in it.
What's wrong with that?
That was great. But don't call it 1886.
Why?
Because that was a time period, and it's not the case in this. It's not 1886.
But it is if you take a look at the buildings and the Victorian twist on everything else and the characters themselves. Galahad, the main character, with the big chops and all that, the clothing, the order. Oh, it was awesome.
Well, the electricity wasn't in 1886 like that. No, the steampunk aspect was great.
Yep.
I loved it, you know, and the Victorian era, that whole idea with the big castles and everything like that. It was great, but you can't say it's 1886. It's just, that's a time period that is in the past, and that didn't take place in 1886.
Well, what they did was they took elements that could have been realized back in 1886 and futurized them. It made it a believable world. I thought it was fleshed out perfectly. I thought it fit the cinematic feel of what I was looking for. It craved an itch. The world is so beautiful and so cinematic, and then you get prompted with a triangle button that completely ruins the moment.
Yeah, you push the triangle button at a certain time and you pass the test.
Well, yeah, the QuickTime events, right? They're always going to do that. I don't think we'll ever get away from QuickTime events. But it's this big button. If you go to a door, there's this little dot that's grayed out. That's subtle enough to allow me, but why am I holding triangle to pick up ammo? What are you doing? Can I just walk over it and pick it up?
Yeah, there's a good aspect to it.
It's a cinematic, beautiful, realized world. The gameplay is solid. The mechanics feel great, but then the triangle, I keep coming back to the triangle button because it's a real disturbance and breaks up the game.
Well, I find what breaks up the game is actually the cinematics. You know, you have these beautiful scenes that are great, you know, to look at for 2 minutes, maybe, tops. When they go on for 15 minutes throughout this whole trial and everything else, it slows down the game to a crawl, to the point I fell asleep at one point.
You what?
Yeah, I fell asleep, I woke up, I was able to play the game without missing a beat.
How did you fall asleep in this?
I don't know, it was so boring, I just looked down and woke up. They were still going on, it was still another 2-3 minutes before I could play again.
I followed the whole thing, I couldn't help but sit on the edge of my seat going, what's going to happen next? They're doing this huge, big spiel. Now, there is some political stuff, right?
Yeah.
We're fighting against the Lycan and the rebels, so the confrontations between all of it that wraps and ties in and twists together, I thought it was flipping awesome.
Well, I did like the Lycan, I liked the rebels, I liked how you were like a crusader after the years passed. You know, you get your name from crusaders that had passed away. And I love that storyline. I like how it creates a you know, a generational thing where they can continue it on in the future.
Sure.
But I didn't like the fact how long it took for me to get from point A to point B without anything happening.
I love the fact that I could take my time, watch the cinematic. I didn't even realize at some points that the cinematic was over because I'm just standing there and my guy's not moving. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, It's waiting for me to move. It is beautiful. It's so well detailed. You can see the pores in Galahad's face, and the characters are so. I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy.
I love the characters. I love the look of it and stuff like that. But when they force you to walk down a hall instead of run down the hall, just so that you can look at the wood on the walls and the windows and what's outside the windows, I don't really need to see that unless I want to see that. Let me run down the hall. Let me get to the next part so that I can continue this 8-hour game.
What, there's a problem with 8 hours now?
There is when I can play it in 8 hours. I'm sure there's other people that could play it in 6 hours. And when you're looking at a price tag, what they want for it, that's a big problem.
I thought it was fantastic. I'm able to get in, play my game, and get back out.
Oh, it's great to do that, but I want to have some sort of more for my bang for my buck. You know, I can't just sit back and watch a game, or play a game, watch a game too, for 6 hours and think, okay, I'll put that on the shelf and that's it? Like, where's the money for it?
Where's the replayability? And you're not going to get that from the Order. The Order is a one-time experience that isn't going to extend the replayability unless you're going for the full Platinum Trophy. That's where you got to go back. I know people who've gone back to get the rest of those, because you can collect a bunch of stuff. There's things in their game to collect, and you can get all that stuff, but it's really optional. I'm not going back to collect it. I enjoyed my time playing. I'm happy with how everything turned out. I'm on to something else.
I'm happy with almost all of it.
I like the cover-based shooter, but I found there was a lot of that cover-based thing. You want to get away? Just duck.
Just hide.
Yeah. And then pop yourself out, and then duck back again, and then pop yourself back.
But I found that was the only way to play. You couldn't charge in and hack and slash and shoot and punch all your way through it.
There's 20 guys on screen. You're not going to last through them.
No, and so you had to stop and you had to hide. They didn't give you any other way to beat that part.
True enough. So what do you think? What are you going to give the Order 1886?
I don't think it was that good a game. I'm going to give it a 6.
Oh my god, that hurts, man. I really enjoyed it. I had a blast. I think it's well worth your time, well worth the money. I'm giving it a 9.
Yeah.
Alright, that's going to wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching Inside the Game. Now you can follow us over on Twitter at 4NextLevelGamers. Chris, where are we going to find you?
At Man of a Reaction.
Now before we go, head over to our website at 4nextlevelgamers.com and hit the highlight reel. There, you too can be a part of the show. All you have to do is send us a highlight, a special gaming moment of something you did on one of your consoles. Chris, who do we have this week?
This week we have Coup15 playing MLB The Show 15 on PS4.
See you next week.
Juan Castilla will get us going now in the top half of the 8th. The 1-2. Now a swing and a sharp ground ball to third. Great play to Spirit from a knee. He gets him. What a play.